Yeah. Yeah, we were.
This is from Mary.
Yeah. I think that you definitely make my point.
Thought you were out of town tonight, man.
Steve was able to get a flight tomorrow. He didn't
Oh,
have his
okay.
4 days work. It's gonna be a quick trip. We'll be back Sunday morning.
Oh my gosh.
I tried to be Andrea, cause I'm trying to, I've got Gail meeting in.
Well, it's good to see you. Glad to hear you.
I started getting a little bit more, artistic.
Well, they got an achievement that basically said you don't have to do, somebody's going to put something there, but I did. Prior chief.
I have a pair.
Yeah.
That Craig City Council meeting there.
It was pretty tight, but I got it a little bit. This new person.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm doing a couple other things, but a couple of July, August, September.
Boy, graduated, now what are you gonna do? Man, now you got a worker for life.
He's going to college in August, so.
Perfect. I was thinking about Tyler the other day. I said, Dad, keeping you busy? He's like, yeah. I was like, right on. So, where's he going? Fairbanks, right on. Sweet. He's smart. He stayed in state. Yeah. Yeah. That out of state wooey stuff is hard to deal with, but if they can get it, then it's at least there.
I don't know, I think, once he gets mileage, he applied to, Montana State University.
Yep.
And air miles wise, Fairbanks is like 2,200 miles from the road.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but
Fairbanks is way up there.
to qualify for the WUI, which is like over 3.5 and even more stringent than that, then it's $48,000 for out of state. And if you do, then it's like $25,000 for in-state, because Tanner, once he realized he didn't qualify for the complete WUI, he ended up choosing to go to Moscow, University of Idaho. So
This morning, coffee shop, they said that
he made the right choice. I looked at him and said, you really want to take $200,000 down in 4 years of student loans? And he was like, not at all, Dad. I would plan on making $10,000 a year when I graduate. So.
4 years. The 4 years of loans is easy. It's the 40 years of paying them back.
Yeah. Well, all righty. We'll call the meeting to order at 6:30. Roll call, please.
Casey Smith,
Here.
Janice Trojan.
Here.
Shauna Thomas.
Here.
Josh Bennett,
Here.
Michael Kentnish,
Here.
Chanel McKinley,
Here.
Millie Schinover.
Here.
There's a amended agenda in front of everybody, so there was one item moved up from new business to the consent agenda. It's the only change on the agenda.
Motion to approve consent agenda as written.
Second.
Open for discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Moving from hearings from the public. All righty. Moving to staff reports. Been a busy June, May. I'm here. Anybody have any questions? All right. Moving to Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I submitted a written report. I do want to add that we've had a couple of conversations with the USDA this week. And so USDA is a little bit schizophrenic on their grants, but at the moment it's working in our favor. We are back to a fire hall grant with no match requirement. So they're looking for $1.3 million that we have been doing. We now just need to rescope our project back down. So we're going to hurry up and get the architect of record, make the changes quickly before USDA changes their mind again and asks us for a match. And then the only other thing is I put in my staff report that I've got some travel in July and beginning of August, and it hasn't been uncommon in past years for us to just do one meeting a month in the summer. So is there any objection by council to doing council meetings on July 17th and August? I'm sorry, whenever I put in the council packet, it'll be the third Thursday of July and the third Thursday of August. Excellent, thank you, council. Beyond that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question in regards, Brian, in your report, you said that you were gonna do interviews June 4th. Did that happen?
I've only had one applicant. I got another person walk in today. I'm probably gonna hold off till next week at least.
Okay,
So-
and I do feel that the mayor and one or two council people should still be involved in the interviews.
Okay, I'll send an invitation out
Okay,
before I do those.
okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I do have a couple questions. Brian, on track D, which of the two firms won the FRP?
P&D.
Okay. And when do we expect the final survey results?
They should be fairly well wrapped up by the end of June, maybe early July. End of June is the target date for the project.
Okay, and did the city of Quogue agree to February's EMS MOU?
I still don't have a signed agreement back from them, so we're just charging them what our draft MOU says, even without a signed agreement back.
And the billings being paid?
I don't know that for certain, but I believe so.
We did just send out the last few months of billings for Coak. They're only probably equivalated for the last 3 months, so probably somewhere around $2,500. It hasn't been a large amount. I did sit down with the mayor and discuss the MOU, and there was something in there that they said that they sent back to us, which we had replied to them, but he hasn't been getting CC'd in the emails. And they are not a strong mayor platform like we are, so the administrator does have a bigger role than, when it comes to authoritative, but I did ask to please CC the mayor in that, knowing that we have come up with a solution and it's okay. It was basically an additionally insured question. We'll cover our insured, but additionally insured wasn't working, which that's fine. You just need a signed agreement at this point. So I did sit down and have a discussion with the mayor from Coak about it.
But currently, we do have a contract with the police service, correct?
No, they still have not signed that. They still haven't sent back a new signed
And
police agreement either, but again, we've been charging them every
Okay.
month and they've been paying.
are we still doing their garbage? No.
It's a 2-week thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. One last question. The person on track D who's leasing, are they up before the survey? Are they gonna be there?
There's not a lease. There's no lease on track D. There's an access permit that
Temporary access?
has been there. And we talked to actually the business, they're sold from one person to another. So we just executed a new access permit for the person that bought the business. And they don't plan on leaving it there long term. So they would move it off, come back for a month next year if the spot's available and so on.
Because as we move forward with the surveying and moving forward with
Yeah.
track D, the temporary access extends himself through the year.
Yeah, but the access permits we can cancel at any time.
Correct.
The access permits don't have a long-term commitment like leases do, so.
Correct.
So even if we have somebody occupying the site under an access permit, when we get ready to use it, it only takes a little bit of notice and then they have to vacate.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, in regards to the MOU with the city of Coak, was there a timeline on that?
It was a negotiation. I don't remember like an exact timeline, but, I don't know. It's been going back and forth. I've cracked the emails. And Brian has tried to have a meeting with Anna and it didn't take place. And that's when I brought it to, Mayor from Coak's attention, let him know that we sent it right back out the same day. I went to Brian's office. I just got, done. They said something about this and it was like we had already responded to that. I said, well, he didn't see it. So if Anna only got it, let's start CCing, Mr. Mayor from Quogue in order to, get everybody involved and try to get this MOU signed. And then requested to see where we were at with billing, and that was, sent out, right before that discussion, actually like a week before that. And when I looked at the numbers, I was really surprised because as we were changing budgets for EMS and working through budget committees and extra people on, I was expecting to see us actually covering Quogue and actually having more calls to Quogue at the time. And I was really surprised that for the last 3 months, it was like $1,300, 750, and like maybe like another $1,000. It wasn't a large amount. And so as we're adding an extra $40,000 to a budget to keep more EMS on for that, you know, that they were looking at doing this year, and it doesn't look like it was set precedents for Quogue setting up with the MOU. I don't think we've been putting many people on call for the calls that I've seen here in the recent times. With the numbers that I've seen, didn't reflect any numbers that were on the MOU. So getting a signed MOU from Quogue with both EMS and police. We have been in contact with Quogue over the phone, and they had verbally said that they would pay the police, and they've been paying the police for their MOU. But it's just getting a signed agreement. I have tracked it all, and it's on their plate at this point. I made sure that it wasn't on our plate, and it's on their plate to actually sign it, to cut them off. And we know that we're going to respond to human life and stuff like that regardless, but it's on, literally, I made sure that it's on their plate to sign these agreements and get back to us. And if we would like to have it, you know, maybe a letter from the council saying we would really like, I mean, we've been on it over and over
With the
again.
timeline, I guess my concern is if things go gunny south, then that ball falls back in our court. And
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we're covered.
I think that's a great idea. I think we should put a timeline on it. If we should maybe put a 1 month timeline on it, if everybody's good with that, and then that'll, because that's exactly what the MO is. You're absolutely right. That's like what the MO is actually for, taking hold harmless agreement to keep us not liable for anything like that. And yeah, that's a great suggestion.
I think that's fair. That's July. That's 6 months to say yes or no.
Well, yeah, and it's been, I mean, yeah.
And it was even a year before that.
Yeah.
When we had a conversation, but 6 months since they've had a paper in their hand.
And
Yeah.
This is a perennial issue with the city of Quogue. In fact, we're getting ready to redo the garbage agreement and our annual dispatch agreement. And every year they take 6 months or more before they finally get something signed back to us. So I like the idea of putting a timeline and stopping service if they don't return signed agreements.
It's, yeah.
I'll send be sending them out tomorrow along with that.
I wouldn't even mind getting a date for their council meeting, or maybe showing up in their council meeting, and, you know, asking the council, but if we could get this, you know, because I'm sure that maybe not everybody's aware.
Yeah, I'm happy to send something out here in the next few days.
Any more questions for the administrator? All right, moving on to Kimber, the treasurer.
She's absent excused tonight, but I'd be happy to try and answer any questions.
Mr. Mayor, I did have one question. Hopefully you can answer it. Is the previous lease holder of the Crave childcare, is her final payment? Are they up to date?
You know, I just thought about that yesterday, but I didn't ask Kimber, so I don't have an answer. I know that they were staying up with the payments, but I didn't ask if the last one was made.
Thank you.
I would move on to Mary, but I don't have a city clerk right now, so. Any questions for the city clerk? All right. Moving on to Ivy.
I submitted a written report, and I was happy to answer any questions.
I did have one question. Ivy, was there minutes available for your meeting at the CTA?
No.
Okay, I'm sorry, I missed that. I thought it was 6:30, not 6, and then I was like
No, it's okay.
trying to play catch up.
Yeah,
So-
I didn't get there till, I mean, I was ready at 5:30.
Yeah, same, yeah, 6:30. All right, thank you.
Sorry, Ivy, I just have one comment, which I've already talked to you about, of planning that meeting on graduation night. I know a lot of people were very upset with that, and if we could not repeat anything like that on major events, that would be helpful, just so we don't get angry people calling and posting about it. But yeah.
Ivy, did anyone show up at that meeting?
No, MRV canceled.
The meeting was canceled.
The MRV
The-
part was, but the planner commission
We
meeting
still
still,
have planning
she still had a
commission
planning commission meeting. So the planning commission must have showed up.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, after seeing all the responses on Facebook and making people aware and everybody wanting to show up to meetings, I was like, we ought to throw out just one on Facebook, just like, hey, guys, we're having a meeting tonight. Oh, just kidding. We're having it next week. Now everybody knows the meeting's going on. And just to make light of it, but I figured, it was, I'm glad, and that meeting's gonna be June 12th,
June 17th.
17th now.
Oh.
June
17th.
17th. Okay, 17th now.
It
All right.
changed today based on a public request. We
Okay.
pushed it from the 12th to the 17th.
Okay, perfect. All right, we'll just get that out to the public, let everybody know then. Awesome. Thank you. Any more questions, Brad? All right, moving to fire EMS coordinator. Vanessa said she would be on the phone calling in. So.
I'm on the phone.
There you are. All
I
right,
submitted a written report, and will answer any questions if anything happens.
awesome. That's fine.
Yeah, actually, I'd like to go back to Ivy when we're done here. I have one question.
Okay. Any questions for? All righty, thank you for calling in. I guess you're on the stand, right? Go ahead, Mr. Taylor.
I'm just curious, the land deal with Mr. Anderson, is that progressing or just kind of where that's at?
Yeah, I've received the plats and they're all signed. Today I got instruction of where to send them to because Ketchikan's changed their system a little bit, so. Yep, those will be getting sent out and recorded.
Very good, thank you.
All righty. Moving on to Hans.
Mr. Mayor, I submitted a written report. The only thing I can add to that is Monday, we had replaced the starter on the boat hauler April 25th, and Monday, the new one gave up the ghost already. So this week we had to put some boats off that we were hauling. We got the new one on today, and we're able to get 2 boats launched, and we're trying to catch up to, there's a couple more boats that we gotta get taken care of to be caught up, but happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Did we get a starter on the shelf?
We're gonna get a different brand on the shelf for spare, so that's, I'm working on getting a different brand of the same starter, so in case the next one, it lasted 35 days basically, and gave out, so.
All right.
We're gonna go with a different one.
All right. Any questions for?
I do have one, Hans, and I'm sure, as you know, you're busy. Everyone's asking the same questions. Where's the benches?
They are, I have the ice house operator should be here, is supposed to be here Monday. When he gets here, it's like having a monkey off our backs, so.
Bench time.
It's bench time, yeah. And I have several projects planned once he gets here and is able to take over the ice house. It really relieves us of a lot of running back and forth and screwing with the ice house.
Perfect, thank you.
I will add though that I did get the stencils, the original stencils that were used on those benches. So we'll be able to restore them kind of how they were, so.
I was gonna ask if they were gonna get Libby painted on them. Good, you're glad to hear that.
Any more questions for Hans? All right, moving to Chief.
Submitted a report, be happy to answer any questions. No, I'm just dealing with an issue in Cooperative at the moment.
No, you're fine.
No, it's not a fire.
Yeah, it's just good to see the overall audit went well with the jail. I know that's really complicated. There's a lot, a lot goes into that and making sure the level of coverage and service there is, appropriate. Nice work.
It's been busy. Hearing a lot of, yes. Yeah. All right, moving to Oliver.
I submitted a written report and would be happy to answer any questions. I submitted my report the morning after it was due, so I'm assuming it's in there.
You good again?
I do have a couple of questions, Oliver. In April, I asked you about the roof at the solid waste plant. Where are we on the schedule?
On the wastewater plant? Yeah, we, since we've talked, Brian and I have spoken with our lender, with our architectural consultants, and the city's attorney on kind of some options. I built a dossier basically of all the communications we've had back and forth. And I can report as of today, I tracked down the supplier who built the panels. And as of today, they are going to be, this is from the supplier, not the contractor. They're going to be built and done on June 11th, I think next Wednesday. And then they'll send them to Seattle. So after I got that today, I basically sent an ultimatum to the contractor and said that they need to supply a hard mobilization date by, and I thought it was very generous by giving them until Monday at noon. And I can tell you the last conversation that Brian and I had last week after talking to the attorney was not favorable for the city's position to fire him because of our contract. I've since reread the contract, which cites 3 other documents that are supplied by the architect. Those go into AIA, American Architect Institute contracts. And I can tell you that we don't need the attorney's permission, and we can fire him, we can charge him liquidated damages, and we have their bond. So as of Monday at noon, if we don't get a favorable request, Brian and I'll make the decision if we're gonna fire him or not, put the thing back out to bid. So that's, I wish I had better, answer, but I think if you look at the amount of communication that we've had with this contractor, that nobody could say the city didn't give them every chance to perform. So.
Thank you. How far out St. Nick are you thinking about offering garbage services?
So there's a new conversation. I'll give you a little more info than you're asking. With the new garbage truck and the dumpster situation at Sean Seat, we had a meeting with Sean Seat, and they're more than favorable to get rid of the rear load style dumpsters that they have, which would mean that we could dispose of that truck if we wanted to, because that's the only thing we have that truck for. Excuse me, that and the plaza, we have one dumpster at the plaza. So we've met with Dave Creighton, we've met with Sean Seat, and come up with the plan that we can get rid of all of those dumpsters and liquidate that truck at a time that's convenient. The update on the garbage truck, it's been paid for as far as the loan obligation and the ordering and everything, and it's 256 days out from about, I think we sent the check a month ago, in the last month. So all that's moving in the right direction. The next step would be look at garbage aggregately. If we're going to come up with a new scheme for Sean Seat, dumpster locations, some garbage cans, we're still kind of working that out. Sean Seat's been very receptive to anything we want to offer, and knowing that we could change it up a little bit. So if we, create a spot for the plaza for garbage service for businesses in there, and Sean Seat, the big one that Brian has put on my plate is St. Nick. And we recently started in the last 2 weeks the conversation of, we currently only go to the end of the asphalt. And internally, the guys don't really like going to the plant with the garbage truck because of the wear and tear on the truck. And really the bigger problem is the winter, chaining up and the snow and the ice and the hills and all of that, doing that couple of days a week. So, if we were only going to offer intermittent service or the St. Knickers, that's what we call them, in Public Works, we've really been looking at maybe like a central area near the existing public workshop to put in 6 or 7 dumpsters and offer that as a service to Port St. Nick. So I don't have a good answer for you, but we're kicking a lot of things around, and that's, eventually council was to give some direction, we're already working on it, but that's the direction we're working.
One more question. David Dayon made some beautiful comments of the Fred Hamilton building in the city of Craig in the last meeting. Does facilities have a maintenance synopsis for all the buildings?
No, in my 5-year look ahead budget for capital projects, I took all the buildings that we had and every other year put, just through the budget really didn't reflect, a report per se. I just kind of threw some money at it, knowing that they could kind of be a placeholder, I want to say, I don't have the budget in front of me, but if I was to look at it, that might be a next year. I think we put $20,000 in there for repairs and paint. The 2 years after that, we have the gym, and I could be off, don't quote me, but I just every 2 years put a building in over the next 5 years. And again, they're placeholders. If somebody, if it was directed to us that a different building needed to be done first, we could kind of slide it in, but we have a budget. We don't have a report. So that's the approach we're taking right now.
Thank you.
Has anything been determined on the vending machines down there? They look like they're derelict, but has that been determined or?
I don't know anything about, I'm sorry, I don't know anything about the vending machines. If that was something I was supposed to be working on, I don't know.
We haven't dealt with that yet.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question in regards to the cemetery.
Okay.
Normally my brother and I go out there before Memorial Day. We're both in our 70s. We didn't make it this year because of the weather, so we went a couple days after, and I was sick at what I saw. Those are loved ones that are out there. Now we have the tourists going out there. I mean, it looks terrible. It's disgraceful. They are paying us to be able to go out there. But is there any way somebody can maintain that?
Specifically, are you talking like the gravel trail or garbage or?
The cemetery itself.
Okay, you mean as far as mowing
I mean,
it?
the wild celery, the grass is all long. I mean, it looks terrible.
I went out there that Friday before Memorial Day and it rained 2 inches that day or something,
Right.
We actually had a plan. We did a little bit of weed eating, but you're not wrong. I wish it would have looked a little better for Memorial Day.
Right.
We currently have one part-time employee doing all the weed eating in town, the bulk of the mowing. So, just like anything else, yes, we can put more effort at it, yeah.
So I'm passionate about it too. I do know that
They
whatever he did.
made a pathway. That was it.
Each plot, the family's supposed to take care of the inside stuff, that way it doesn't get disturbed and thrown.
Right.
And so we do need to pump up people, because I'll do it, but I couldn't do it by myself. People just, and Kat Sinkovich, she's passionate about cemeteries, kind of just need to get people to also help you guys as far as the individual ones.
Right.
And then the one that's cracked, is there anything we can ever do about that? There's a big cement slab that's cracked in the middle and it just looks bad.
And we're not allowed to touch any individual graves out of respect. We could do a better job of mowing in between them. I don't disagree with you there. I can tell you on the capital side for the cemetery, we have $10,000 in our budget. And we've reserved a 200 size excavator and pre-bought some gravel because we're not going to get to it in time. This is probably more like a September project. And we went out and found all the property pins for that property and plan to do a little expansion this year. As far as we have a master plan on the landscaping and the roadway and a little flat spot up on top for cars to pull up and that type of thing. So this year, our plan for the money that we had was to kind of expand the edges and clean them up. Maybe do some on-site burning, maybe not, but, you know, go out and put a big push for a week. That's the only plan we have for the cemetery right now.
Yeah, we've had extremely large amounts of rain. I finally last Friday or Saturday when it finally stopped downpouring, and I went out and actually literally like weed whacked my yard, and just by me walking around and weed whacking it, I noticed the moss started turning into mud. And so, I mean, if we were to drive a lawnmower on there on the wrong time, we would probably do more harm than good. Hopefully we get some better weather, because this is.
I'd like to lean on that as an excuse, but.
Well, no, but I'm not making an excuse, but it was, I mean, this has been crazy this last 2 months of.
Jane, how much water did you get at the water plant inches in May?
The water plant received over 2 feet of rain last month.
1 month, it's a record.
Yeah.
28, 24 inches of rain or something like that.
You know, my lakes are spilling over right now. We got more hydropower, and the fish aren't here, but they got a lot of water to swim up if it comes. Yes. All right, any more questions for Oliver? Okay, moving on to Gretchen.
Gretchen's not here. I'm happy to try and answer any questions.
I did have a talk with 4th of July committee, and they did said if we do want to advertise on our Facebook page for more volunteers for the 4th of July committee, they would be more than happy. That was a suggestion on one of the last council meetings. They'd be more than happy, and I believe they may have submitted a list of stuff that they need assistance with. So I was just gonna pass that on to Gretchen. I don't think the 4th of July committee wants to post anything on our Facebook site, but they are more than willing to have somebody from the city, if they had time, post something for volunteers.
I've already given contact information to Karen who to send those requests to.
Yeah, perfect. Moving on to Stephanie.
I submitted a written report, and I'm here for any questions you may have.
All right, thank you, staff. Moving on to reading of correspondence, Papa's land use request for the city council. They're requesting to put a 30-foot container down there by the sewer plant where they put the cars to store supplies to help them stay neuter.
They help provide a great service in town. The annual spring news clinic that they do. If the council doesn't have any objection, I'd like to draw up an agreement with PAWS that we would store a container for them down there.
Mr. Mayor, I thought we had spoke at one time, maybe not during the, I think it was budget committee, that the police department wanted to expand their in-town yard. And this is their area, is the in-town yard. Not trying to say this group does great work. I'm not disagreeing with that, but the city's limited to the amount of space for our impound yard, and this is the growing area for that. I don't have any problem with this, other than I know that SSI is doing a lot of work with everybody right now, and they have a lot of space out in their plot of land out the JT Brown subdivision. If we have anywhere for this to go, I don't have a problem with it, other than I know this is our growth area for the impound yard.
Yeah, this is the first that we've had a request for it.
Yeah, I think it's worthy cause. I'd like to, we can continue this conversation with our city administrator and see if we can come to you know, some kind of place that works for everybody.
It might be something that I had a meeting with SSI, covered everything that had been talked about in this meeting here the other day, and they have been really receptive. It does seem like they still are a little understaffed. So I know Hans has been a big help down there, pulling boats out and putting stuff up there with SSI as well, and they're real thankful for that too. So, but basically just looking for council direction to, I'm not sure how many cars we have impounded down there, or if we're short on space, or.
It's maxed out right now. I've actually got vehicles on the outside of the fence.
So so right now there's no space for, so yeah, absolutely. I know one of our biggest challenges is having land opened up and places to utilize it. So, maybe it might be a suggestion to look at other avenues until, it's really hard to go clear out cars if they don't have a place to put a 30-foot container. But like I said, looking for council's direction on this.
Is it a 20 or a 30 foot?
They said up to a 30, ideally a 20-foot container, is what it said in the memo.
Because I know in Down Public Works, I have 2 containers right now, and probably within a month, 2 months, one of them would be yanked out because it leaks. It's not even good for anything. And I don't know, Oliver probably does one of the other things down there.
This is your circus, buddy, not mine.
We do have some, I don't know if that's our property where the mud's stacked up out there by the burn pit. I don't know if that area over there tucked in the corner might work.
Randy, you know if they need power?
I don't think they do. I think they're mainly looking for trap storage.
I didn't think they needed power.
There's a lot of cameras out there.
Yeah.
If the council doesn't have any objection, I'm happy to work with PAWS and the PD and Public Works and find a location of that.
Is that last piece, that triangle of land where the parking lot of the upper ball field to the impound yard, is that SSI's or is that the city's? That has alders in there, very bushes.
So we own the T-ball field. So there's the city parcel is basically on the beach side of the road from the line that's almost right between the 2 ball fields. And so the T-ball field all the way out to the sewer plant is ours.
So there is property right there for development if we wanted to go down that road.
Yeah, I think between the 2 or 3 areas, we can find some place for a 20-foot container. So like I say, if there's no objection by the council, I'm happy to work with PAWS and PD and Public Works, and we'll find a spot.
Perfect. All right, thank you, council. Moving to Harbor Advisory Committee meeting minutes of May 22nd, 2025. Any discussion further? Are we reading on it?
Hans, how did everyone take 8%, 7 to 5, 0.5 to 8?
I'm trying to remember if we talked about that at the meeting. Basically what we did was with the increase of revenue that we were trying to get, Josh, another 0.5% was 1,400 some change. And looking at the liveaboard, all we had to do is raise that $10 a month, and it hadn't seen a change in rates since 2018, and that gave us about $1,450, give or take. So that was the direction we went, and there'll be a resolution for the council the next meeting regarding that.
I think it was mentioned, but I don't think there was any discussion about the extra 0.5%.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did mention it, and there was no opposition to it, and there was a recognition that, we have a deficit in our harbor, so I didn't see anybody, I was at the meeting, nobody, threw a fit or anything. I think it's understood, we need to try and, increase some of our revenue.
Hans, I have a question. I think it was, did we discuss that here where we were talking about the Port St. Nick residents weren't considered local?
Yeah, and that's something that I'll be bringing bringing to the council after the budget's, passed.
Was that talked about in the meeting?
That was talked about at our previous harbor meeting, and I kind of have it ready to go. I just was waiting for the council to approve the budget. It will change harbor revenue, and there'll be a lot of things to define there, that we'll talk about later, but, like what defines how does the harbor prove that someone's a Craig resident? And the harbor committee was very clear that they did want to include the St. Nick population into that harbor discounted rate. So anyway, it's something I'm going to be bringing to the council soon. Was just waiting for the budget to be passed.
Is Craig residents right now already getting a discounted rate? Then it's not going to impact the budget at this point in time.
If the council adopts a change or directs a change to the harbor policy, we will at the same time follow up with a new proposal for harbor rate increases in other areas. My intent would be that any change to that long-term transient rate is balanced by increases to other rates so that it's budget neutral.
Yeah, I've talked to a few residents and they said, we run in the red on the pole and running, and so like having a deficit at the harbor is should be something that, we still kind of look at still having a deficit. I know we can't not have a deficit on a lot of things. But I did ask the individual personally, well, so you feel that Port St. Nicholas residents should be considered to have a discount? And they said, absolutely not. And they said, I'm a Craig resident, I pay sales tax, and I do, they could see that this having a, negative deficit in the harbor committee that was paid by city sales tax would be a thing, but in order to have people getting that benefit who don't pay city sales tax in the community, they weren't quite for. So that kind of did full circle on the conversation, but I think you guys were having committee meetings. Yes, go ahead.
And with that whole discounted rate thing, I'm the messenger for
absolutely.
So.
Believe me, I know what you mean. All right, any more questions for the Harbor Advisory Committee meeting minutes? All right, thank you, Hans. Moving to consideration of resolution and ordinance 792 FY26 operating and capital budget final reading.
I move to approve ordinance 792 adoption for fiscal year 26 City of Craig budget.
Second.
Open for comment.
This will be on the next agenda, or this is?
No, this is it.
This is second reading.
This is it.
Were you gonna have a comment? Made the motion or second? I do have a couple of things I feel, and I know we've sat through quite a few meetings, that with the current formula of how we get our basically $6 million to spend, I feel that why do we have to spend it all? Why can't we have a surplus greater than $4,800? And then instead of just bumping up every department to their max or filling it up. I understand the COLA and the increases in the revenues. I feel that some of the levels of certain departments could have stayed at FY25. If you guys would look on the actual Kimber's monthly report, you'll see that there's a couple departments that miss their projection, their actual approved budgets. There's a couple that 30,000, there's another 30,000. I understand the sewer department probably had a roof in there. I don't understand how they go over and the budget's still there. Basically, I'm saying I move to amend the budget to move the total amount, the recreation down to FY '24 number of, I believe it was $256,000. I don't know the exact change, but they went over 30-some thousand dollars alone. And same with the aquatic center. I know there was repairs to be done there, but we are running a deficit, as we just had spoke about. We can't just keep on allowing departments to overspend their allotted amounts. So I can get the exact number here in a second if you guys.
I believe with recreation, we had some money to move around. We did some extra brushing in between the water plant and Port St. Nicholas all the way to 5 Mile and the brusher. So, and then with other projections of not having staff and salaries that were met is also another kind of placeholder that we still project in the budget at times to actually have that full staff in certain different locations. So sometimes, and I look at it while you're looking at the numbers a little differently, because I look at all the dilapidated buildings and stuff that people are talking about. And sometimes I look at our budget of $6 million and I'm like, you know, if we would have spent $6 million, you know, 200,000 or $6,050,000 just to patch the, you know, things, and we didn't have, you know, drywall rotten and black mold in public facilities, and then, you know, move on with the big fixes later, we wouldn't be sitting in the situation that we've all been, we all inherited. And so I look at it on two different ways. There's definitely, but the last couple of years, there's been a lot of staffing that hasn't taken place, and there's been budgets that we've been able to move money around in.
I move to amend the current budget and decrease the amount of recreation detail to match FY '25's at $256,399. That'll save us $21,000. It'll actually save us more because we went over about 30 this year. So if that department needs more, they can ask for more. So.
I second the motion, Mr. Mayor, because I highlighted the same.
This is recreation, right? This is
recreation.
Yeah, this is
recreation.
Okay, perfect. All right. Yeah. Okay.
I would,
open for discussion.
I guess the first point of discussion I would ask for is we really don't have the ability to just reduce the overall amount, right? The purpose of the approved budget by the council is to approve those line item appropriations. And so my question would be, which of those line items should be reduced by how much to achieve what you want?
I guess in the discussion, I would reduce every line item to match FY '25 in recreation detail.
So not counting the 2.5% COLA or increases in insurance or other costs?
Okay, so I guess those are the only two things that need to be adjusted. The 2% is 2.5%?
2.5%.
And the 6% of the insurance costs. I think you said it was 6 point something in the top.
So leave salary, wages, and benefits. Leave salary, wages, and benefits where it is, and reduce all of the other items to FY '25.
Please.
Any more discussion on it? Yes.
Yeah, I have the same concern that, you know, we need to be a little bit more judicious with our budgets going forward. I'm aware of the guided sport industry specifically. I know that there's been a, you know, significant reduction in clients, so that some have backed out and some haven't signed up this year. And they, you know, they're a pretty significant contributor to both our sales tax for the guided industry, and then they spend money in town when they're here. I think there's some other areas in our, you know, community that economically, we may see some changes going forward, so I'm concerned about that. At the same time, at this late in the game of the budget, I'm reluctant to change the budget at this point. I think my personal feeling is I would go with what we have, but I think that going forward in our future budgets, we do need to be a lot tighter to, fiscal, savings and minimizing our increases. I think we have some uncertain times coming in front of us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of big ticket items that need to be dealt with that aren't gonna get any cheaper. And it is nice keeping, $17.5, $18 million in our bank account, but if we wanna keep our infrastructure up on our buildings and places like that that need maintenance, it is at some point in time gonna cost us. But yeah, absolutely, going through everything with a fine comb and just like the school's doing and letting, departments know that, that bring in a wish list every year, and the finance committee looks at them and kind of goes through everything is definitely something that we looked at.
Which is our process currently.
Yeah, I absolutely know that's been the process since I've been here for last year and a half. Any more discussion before we go to a vote? Yes.
Mayor, after looking at the recreation and the aquatic center, I see that they both have different departments with different budgets. I recall when they were combined, but I think they need to be separated again. Because I think the gal that we have in there, in hopes that she's gonna stay for a long time at the pool, I think she should run her own show and recreation run theirs. Because they do have separate budgets.
And we're generally operating that way. It has been our intent for the last couple of years to kind of combine management. But we have had stops and starts, and at the moment, really, Mandy is running the aquatic center essentially as a separate department.
Unless she's gone, then recreation takes over.
I mean,
She's
not
got
really
like
so
6
much.
weeks of swim lessons going on or something like that, and she's not here, then, okay.
Okay, thanks.
Any more discussion on the amendment? Roll call vote?
Shauna? Yes. Millie?
Yes.
Mike?
No.
Josh?
Yes.
Chanel?
No.
Janice?
No.
All right, motion does not pass. Move to the original motion, approval of the FY operating budget.
Mr. Mayor, it's a tie vote.
It's a tie vote. Oh, oh gosh, wow.
You're trying to get out of that one.
I recused myself of this because I went swimming one time and it cost me.
Sorry, you almost got.
Wow,
I
almost,
Mr. Mayor.
you guys all had to show up today, didn't you? How much out of the operating budget are we looking for?
Not changing, so it looks like the increase in salaries and benefits is about $8,000. What did you say the total difference was?
Oh, the original one is
22.
2159 or
So-
21,592.
So we're looking at about a $14,000 or $15,000 reduction.
I mean, I know we got a lot of tourism coming in here, and this is both things that represent the community and gives our kids and stuff to do. I feel like getting about $10,000 from the cruise ship company to come in and stuff like that, we could have possibly subsidized that $8,000, through tourism. at this point in time, knowing that we spent a lot of time in the budget committee going over all this stuff, I'm respectfully going to say no, and we'll keep the operating budget like it is. Means that this is, and if they need any more money, it might be a little harder to get it through the council throughout the year, but I know we spent a lot of time on this budget at this point in time.
With that, the motion fails.
All right.
To amend the budget.
And now we're back to the original motion for the final reading, open for discussion. Aaron,
I just want to reiterate what I said. I think that we do have to be careful going forward. On a related note for revenues that are positive for us, how is the, this, I don't know what the appropriate name for it is, the internet sales tax, that we've been getting in.
Through the roof.
Yeah, that's the positive that I see.
But we haven't budgeted that. And
Right, no, I
this
understand
year reflects, $200,000 increase. And the returns that we're getting every month seem to be extremely consistent at that amount or more.
It's growing.
Yeah.
So I would, this is a little bit off topic, but it's still budget related. I think in the future, I would concur with Josh. I'd like to see us do something where we continue to, add to like our permanent fund or when we have these increasing revenue streams, we should take advantage of that, not just necessarily to spend it, but to invest it long term. So, we're well into our process now, basically done with the process, but I think that this is a line of thinking that I would certainly support in the future.
I'd be happy to carry those comments to the budget committee next year.
Yeah, that's what I'm suggesting, so.
Yeah, absolutely, because we spend, and the school's gonna have their hand out in 3 years.
Well, the school's gonna have to deal with their own financial deficits here coming up if the state doesn't, with our community having less and less kids. Somebody brought up a great point that, 14, 15 years ago, there was 400 students, we're down to 200. So that deficit that the school's talking about is from their BSA because the kids aren't here in the school. We still have the same amount of teachers, we have the same amount. I mean, I'm all for the school, that's one of the reasons I ran, but our community is gonna be looking at restructuring. As of our city fiscal budget, I look at all of the dilapidation stuff that has not been taken care of every year, upgrading of stuff, and we have a great staff that's able to do a lot of different things. So it saves us a lot of money, not hiring contractors to do stuff like that. I agree with everybody. I would love to put more money in our account, and I think everybody who was here before us is the same way, and they love not to dip into our deficit, but at times I feel like people before us would have dipped into that deficit. We wouldn't be where we're at today with the declining buildings, the water, sewer lines, sewer building. And we're just talking about the roof at this point. We're not talking about the 3 different holding tanks inside that are dilapidated that we decided to do one at a year instead of lump sum in everything and taking a couple $100,000 out of the budget for. I mean, these are all things that could have been dealt. I mean, even if it's our guys being able to deal with something so a guy doesn't have to go wear waders to go sift through everybody's crap. We could have literally allocated a little more money to take care of in a little more timely fashion, even if our guys didn't have time to do that. So I do agree that I would love to have more money in our account and save money every year, but going through every facility, I've been through every facility now, I could honestly say our boiler, all this stuff that's not our fault. I've been to the water plant, I've been to the sewer plant, I've been to the fire hall. There's a lot of stuff that we got. Yeah, I mean, I can go on and on, but I do agree with the wants and the needs. The needs have to outweigh the wants, but that's all I have to say.
And just to make sure that it's in focus, the budget increase this year is significant over last year, if you look at the bottom line numbers. But you have to remember that 700,000 of that is the school funding, right? So my recollection, I'm sorry, I didn't put the number in front of me, but I think there was only about a $200,000 overall increase to the operating budget between fiscal year 25 and fiscal year 26. And a large portion of that, likely the majority actually, is attributed to the salary and wage increases and the insurance costs, which are, just to put it in some perspective, our normal payroll runs about $85,000 a pay period. And our insurance, when we pay for health insurance, runs us about between $60,000 and $65,000 a month. And so you can imagine that a 2.5% increase to the wages and a 6% increase to health insurance is a hefty amount all by itself. So I think our departments generally do a really good job of not padding the budget, of asking for what they need. I'll tell you, I'm the first one to put more money into savings or to make sure that we get good things done and to hold to a conservative budget. But I just wanted to be clear that the increase between 25 and 26 in the overall budget this year is not a large increase once you take the $700,000 for the school funding out of consideration.
I mean, in Public
Just
Works,
my
they
2
just came up with a great idea of that, consolidating that garbage truck. That's a $350,000 garbage truck. It's got 4,200 miles. That we could probably get, close to what we paid for it. That can pay 3/4 of a new garbage truck that we were looking at, allocating those funds for the next couple of years. So that's a huge revenue stream. And thank you all for having that conversation with SSI, because they were really receptive, and they said, yeah, that totally makes sense. And that's gonna, stuff like that goes a long way. So
It's a great move. I tentatively floated this. I didn't
Appreciate
maybe
the
all
all
of us
that.
saw it, but I was in the regional solid waste. I get to attend once a month these fun garbage meetings, literally garbage meetings for the Solid Waste Authority. And so they went around for member comments, and I said, hey, everybody start putting your pennies together. We're going to have an almost new garbage truck ready to sell this when we put it to the council, if the council approves it. So I'm hoping to get a good buyer in Southeast when we're ready to sell that thing.
yeah, I talked to Co-op. They're not in. So just because it'll take too much modification for it. But when I heard the numbers, I was like, and I'm an equipment guy, and my numbers are like, wait, I'll buy a,
2020.
and I'll pay you guys $200 a year to run your $350,000 piece of equipment. But no, any more discussion on the operating budget or final reading? All right, we'll move for a voice vote, please.
Josh,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Millie,
Yes.
Chanel,
Yes.
Shauna,
Yes.
Janice,
Yes.
All right, thank you, Council.
Council, especially the budget committee members, thank you again. I appreciate all the help. There's a lot of work, a lot of meetings, a lot of evenings spent here going through the budget items, and I appreciate the help and the input. Please, if you see Kimber, tell her that, just give her a pat on the back.
Yes, Amber, thank you.
She does such an awesome job working through this.
It is a tough one every year, but I mean, definitely with these hard times, people are definitely going to be sharpening their pencils. Hopefully, more money comes our way. Moving to new business, lease renewal for Taquan Air.
Move to authorize the city administrator to execute the lease renewal terms for another 5 years.
Second.
Open for discussion.
Who's supposed to be on the phone?
Is there anyone from Taquan Air on the phone tonight? Okay, we made sure they knew about the meeting this time. So.
And no no discussion, I guess we'll go to.
Is there a motion? I'm sorry.
Oh, there's no motion, no.
Was there?
That was.
No, it was motion and a second.
Yep.
Mike and,
Mike?
Mike and Jen.
Mike and Jan, thank you.
Yeah, it's been the motion.
I'm gonna reiterate the last comment from the Misty Fords one. Where's the drop box for the vessel money, the fish box money, the dock fees? Is that gonna be billed after the fact?
Our intent right now is to operate like the Ketchikan Airport does, which is the carriers will report at the end of the month how many landings and passengers and fish boxes. And so they'll give them an invoice based on that information.
Kind of like our business tax, people submit their tax revenue to us, every quarter. We don't, and if they don't, then we generate a bill to them that we think that this is the best case scenario that we do, and then we send them a bill, and they come in and tell us, well, actually, I didn't have that big of sales, and I didn't generate that much revenue, so this is what I did, and then we, and then we go from there. And this could always be revisited at a later time if we think like
I think it should be.
the cost isn't working or this whole thing isn't working that we started. It's just an added cost to them they're already paying basically the lease like they were. This is just an added cost on top of the lease to the building.
Need to get down on, acknowledgement by leasee, state of Alaska, it needs to go down and change, personally appeared John Bowling, the city administrator. So that might need to be. Yeah, maybe that one would be.
We can fix that, thank you.
Saying AI.
No, old leases. Old leases.
All the U's.
Any more discussion besides the typo? All right. Hearing none, we'll go to the roll call vote.
Shauna,
Yes.
Chanel,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Josh,
Yes.
Millie,
Yes.
Janice.
All right, two council. Moving to certification of 2025 property tax roll.
I move to adopt the 2025 certified property tax assessment roll prepared by AC Gamma LLC.
Second.
Open for discussion.
I have one comment. I think overall this is good. I think I did mention this before. I know it's been discussed a little bit over the last year or two when we see these significant increases in our property taxes, but other communities have faced this. Some communities have taken actions that put limits on, property increases. Because it does put a big burden on, especially the people with limited incomes. And, again, at this stage, I don't know if it's something that we, should do right now, but I think that going forward, that's another worthy discussion about just trying to protect some of our, all of our property owners, but especially the ones that are on fixed incomes and more vulnerable. Maybe 2% or 3%. I mean, these are things, but other communities are struggling with this or have done this, and it's something I think we need to consider as well.
I've already put a discussion together for the June 19th meeting. There's one potential exemption which has some accomplishes some of those goals. It has some negative effects as well, but also a couple of other options generally, and powers that the city council has as far as adjusting the taxes levied. So that's on the agenda for June 19th already.
You know, right now, that's all I'm asking, just consideration.
Any more discussion? Move to a roll call vote?
Josh,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Millie,
Yes.
Janice,
Yes.
Chanel,
Yes.
Shauna.
Yes.
All right, thank you, council. Moving to tourism committee discussion.
I'm not looking for a formal motion here, just some direction. As the memo lays out, there's really three kinds of committees that the municipal code allows for. The council expressed some interest in forming a tourism committee the last meeting, I think, or meeting before. And so I just wanted to throw out what the options are and get some feedback from the council. Once we have some direction, I'm happy to bring a more formal process back to the council the next meeting.
Any discussion or direction? Mr. Chair.
Yeah, of the three options, I like number 3, the advisory committee. That was the one I'm most comfortable with.
Me too.
I have had feedback from a couple of community members that support the idea of some type of an advisory committee to the council and the mayor. And I think this one fits the intent of what we want to try and do here the best.
Thank you. See everybody giving head nods. Perfect.
Yeah, I agree as well. So, all right, we'll put together some information that outlines the structure, and we'll prepare a resolution forming a tourism advisory committee for the city of Craig.
All right. Thank you.
Move forward with it. Thank you.
All right, moving to policy for public use of Craig Seaplane Float.
Move to adopt the section public use of the city Craig, seaplane float to the Craig Harbor Policy Manual as presented.
Second.
Open for discussion. Looks like you guys took everything in consideration, and yeah, looks like did a really good job of reaching out to everybody who uses the float, and like we said, this is all a trial period, and hopefully it'll generate some funds to actually do some upkeep on the float, that we don't have to put funds coming from somewhere else.
I think Hans and the harbor committee did a really good job balancing both the kind of daytime sharing with the float plane operators and use after hours.
Do we have cameras down on that float? All right.
We don't, but
Okay.
if we don't get honest people telling us that they need to pay for their.
I'm not doing that for, no, I wasn't suggesting that for like, for anything for revenue purposes. It was more for liability purposes. When they actually thought about the float planes down there, I was thinking, oh man, that'd be a really bummer if somebody decided to pull over to that side of the dock and something happened to that plane, and it's been like, well, it wasn't me, so I was just,
We don't have one pointed that direction now, but we can talk about putting something in.
I think it'd be a good idea. The harbor building has no line of sight. If they had a CCTV, they could at least see whatever's going on.
and you can mount it on the building itself up above and get that view.
Anything. I saw this was being used, I think today. There was a fishing boat down there, not a charter, like a fishing boat, and they were loading stuff up. It's what it's there for. Well, I feel, the community members need it. It's way easier to do that than push it down the ramp and down the dock. It's a good thing.
Yeah, as part of this discussion, I think overall this is good. I have And then, during our discussion, we all said that this was there's gonna be a learning curve in this. And there's two things that I do see as something we need to pay special attention to. One is number 2, prohibited mooring area. By eliminating, say, half of the west facing dock, which is the main landing area for the planes, then it just takes longer for, when we have a fleet of boats. And this morning, actually, I don't know if they tied up there, but I know in the fog this morning, there was 8 or 10 boats up front. It looked like either waterfowl or maybe from out at Steamboat, but nonetheless, by not at least letting them tie up 1 or 2 boats on the north end of the west face, that increases the amount of time they will be on the dock. And so my suggestion would be to just monitor that, see how things work, and if we end up deciding maybe we want to move through boats faster, then we could allow 1 or 2 boats to use the north end of the west facing dock, which is the main landing area for our float planes. And that's just something to monitor. And then the other thing that I think we need to monitor, number 4, in the last bullet point on page 3, during normal aircraft operating hours, vessel owners must also notify both air carriers, tenants of the seaplane terminal prior to any float use. That one I struggle seeing. I just struggle seeing guys do that.
That was direct from the harbor committee.
I know, I was part of it, I was there, but I'm still struggling with whether that's.
Well, and maybe a suggestion there is having them contact the harbor department we have a flight schedule like on the wall, and to basically, they can call Shannon or somebody in the office at that time, and if they don't get permission, they don't have access. People just can't say, well, I can't get hold of somebody. I need to make that clear. So I just took it on myself to go down there. We need some kind of, verbal or permission or, something to say, yeah, you can use it. Common sense has to prevail. Like today, we're about 100-foot visibility. We're probably getting many seaplanes in, but for great concerns that basically, they need some kind of communication. And there is a lot of times that at least TAC-1 Air, I can't talk for Ward Air, but TAC-1 Air does fly into Hollis a lot of times. So this is going to take communication for this to work in between the float plane companies and the community.
Yeah.
So I'm sure as a trial on air does, we will come up with a better process, and I'm sure people will give us better ideas in the future, or ideas in the future. But
overall, I think it's a good idea because, we want to service and provide service for, especially our local fleet, when being able to back down and transfer goods and such, and equipment is, it's vital to operations for a lot of boats.
absolutely, and if we have good stewardship in between the other people that are using it, maybe they will look at helping us with funds to keep the dock up, to keep them guys rolling down the hill too. So, yeah, I thank the committee for coming up with this in such a short time period. Any more discussion? All right, move for a roll call vote.
Millie,
Yes.
Shawna,
Question?
No,
Oh,
sorry. No, I was just looking at, no, sorry.
Okay, so I'm sorry, continue.
Shawna, yes. Janice,
Yes.
Chanel,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Josh,
Yes.
Moving to the biomass boiler Denali Commission funding. Dun, 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 the bad news.
This one does have a recommendation if someone wants to motion.
Yeah.
Move to direct staff to execute and amend the agreement with the Denali Commission to provide additional funds to the HS biomass boiler project and to complete engineering and design for the city biomass boiler replacement.
Second.
Open for discussion. Anybody made the motion on to start the discussion or no? I'll start, because,
We
this,
need it.
no, that this is, something from me directly, and I'll take the heat for it, how our, that basically this is needed to be funded for the last few years, and if we keep running this boiler, we're basically putting, employees, facilities at risk. I don't see, it's unfortunate that it's gonna cost us more to operate the pool and the school. But this was like, from what I gathered and looked into, like a one of two that was made. The company went out of business after the first year. I mean, all the way down to the staff has gone over and beyond what they should have done on keeping, not that they should have done, but keeping it up to the specs that it has been. And after I went in and inspected and looked at everything, the $10,000 wasn't even going to replace the stack. But the stack isn't the problem. It's got creosote leaking out the seals. It's got potentially asbestos in the air when you first light it up. And, I mean, it's just such in bad shape that I feel like we as council and mayor and administrator, which is basically to put a little bit of bug in the Denali Commission's ear, because they have literally dropped our $400,000. No, not the Denali Commission. The Denali Commission still has a $200,000, but the USDA, or the funds that we had, we lost $400,000 for it. And so basically the Denali Commission funds we can actually use for match to government. But now that we don't have the $400,000 to actually do anything with the boiler, we need to go back to the original funders and find out who that was. We were the first people in the state of Alaska to actually get a boiler. We have the oldest boiler in the state of Alaska that is operable, and under good faith of going in there and just poking my end in, and the guys were great taking me in there and showing me everything, and I'm pretty mechanically inclined when it comes to that stuff. And I thought maybe it was just a stack and a programming problem, because this thing is supposed to be self-efficient. These guys have to be in there 24 hours a day. Somebody has to be watching it day and night to go in there and operate it. And after I did it, I actually requested that we contacted the school and direct this to the council for basically look at maybe not operating this anymore until we look at getting a permanent fix to that facility.
Yeah, it's our plan now not to operate the boiler until it's replaced. That's really the bottom line.
Yeah, and they had a great idea of keeping these funds allocated for, basically when they built this, they must have built the building around the furnace. You can't even get the furnace through the door that is in there. So there's gonna, just to go out to planning to figure out how to cut the biggest hole in the building and put some kind of a roll up door to get the piece of junk that we inherited out of our building. And, to be looking to get those other funds to actually replace. But
I know this outcome wasn't what we would like to see, but not running it is the right choice. And it's really the only choice until we replace the boiler. Getting the engineering finished puts us in a good position. We still are working closely with a number of biomass related folks. I don't remember if I mentioned it in the memo, but the school had some Denali Commission money to finish up their project, which got axed. And so us moving this money not only helps the school project, but it replaces some critical funding that the Denali Commission had a DOJ review, and one of the energy projects that got axed was some funding for the school. And so this replaces that money, helps the school get across the finish line, I hope, and puts us in a position where we have a shovel-ready project. I also am hoping that when Senator Lukowski is able to make congressionally directed spending requests again, that she will remember that this one got dropped somewhere on the House or Senate floor, wherever that appropriation bill was that it didn't get put into that should have. and maybe we'll go to the top of the list to get some new money to fix it.
Mr. Mayor, I have a couple questions. So if we do this, the boiler will be operational at the high school? Fully operational?
No, they still have $1 million
Yeah.
to finish the boiler
Okay,
project. This is just a system.
So you said in intergovernment to government, this boiler will not work at our facility if we were to yank it out, and it would service the pool and the elementary. And
There's no boiler.
Do you mean the school boiler?
The school boiler.
There is no boiler at the school. They got a building built and it's gonna take another $1 million.
They have a boiler. Raycon purchased the boiler. It's in a
They
container.
do. They would be on the.
Oh, it is in a container.
Yeah,
Okay.
you unloaded it.
Really? That was the
That
boiler?
was the boiler.
I seen the stack coming
Yeah.
out, but I was told that they didn't have the boilers, that it was gonna cost us.
No,
another-
Raycon spent $600K
No,
on it.
they do have a
Sweet.
boiler.
Boiler's been there for years.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have
okay.
been pretty clearly told, and the school has, that if the school were to transfer that boiler to the city, that would end the school's project.
They
Yeah.
transferred it
School.
to themselves, just at a different location.
I don't know that the funders would look at that, because they wouldn't be completing the project that the money was approved for.
Okay.
And the school would be-
Jackie actually did, think of that, and we actually did discuss it, and they basically said that we'd be on the hook for $1 million. That's where I got that from. I apologize. I thought that they weren't actually able to be ready to receive chips.
Well, they don't have it installed yet.
Yeah,
They have a boiler sitting in a container out of the school.
yeah.
My really main issue with this is we just passed a budget that included $10,000 in capital projects for a $10,000 stack. I don't know why we didn't have this information 5 minutes ago.
Maybe I can chime in.
Well, it's in the budget that just got approved.
Well, there's $10,000 last year for the stack.
Well, we'll use it for something else.
No, we will use it for for a share of the engineering for our boiler project. The money, the $10,000 in the fiscal year 26 budget will still be spent on the boiler project, but it will be spent to match some of this Denali Commission money to finish the engineering on our project.
And looking at the stack, it was gonna
Oh.
be closer to like
It's not even
$18,000
worth
for the stack,
Right.
and realized that the $10,000, and then when I went in there, I'm like, see that lockout and tag out over there on the wall? Pull that lockout and tag out and lock this out and take it out. Because that would be basically to where nobody would go in and operate it until they got the person who got the key and the lock and so on and so forth. So that was,
Right now,
but we're basically, you are kind of right, Ross, we are moving around something that's gonna be passed in July, for the budget, or the budget just got passed, so now we are just rolling, reallocating the $10,000 for the boiler for something else on the boiler. But this.
yeah, right.
It moved, yeah.
Name never got changed.
Still using, the number doesn't change, and the project really doesn't change, just the specific use of the money. We're using it for engineering instead of replacement of the stack.
Yeah.
In a related note here, you know, we clearly have struggled with our wood heat programs. Southeast Conference has been allocated, and it's secure, a funding stream to develop a pellet plant. They're working towards doing that in Ketchikan right now. One of the things that I think, you know, would benefit us maybe is, as we go forward in these projects, is thinking about, and I know that we already are, but keeping Southeast Conference in the loop of our discussion here, and as we look to refurbish these, our facility at the pool, and also whatever, you know, may develop at the high school, looking at the possibility of also using pellets to do these projects. I know that our consideration for the pool has been a burner that would do both pellets or chips. That gives us a little bit of option on a supply stream, which is something we've struggled with. And so having the option of using pellets also benefits Southeast Conference's developing project, because that gives them a better anchor stream, anchor tenant for a stream of product that would be produced.
Yeah.
I think we have a long ways to go on this kind of stuff, but I'm more encouraged that if we go to a dual system, which has been suggested, that might help smooth out some of the challenges and the hiccups we've had in the past.
Yeah, absolutely, and I've had extensive conversations with people about boilers. I'm not sure if I can forget the mayor's name, but they just got done and they had great success. We do have other entities that we haven't tried to partner with on the island to supply us with chips. SISD got a chipper. Right now in between, you know, our boiler being part of the problem and then getting chips being part of the problem, I think we're in a good avenue. I've heard a lot of issues with the pellets at Southeast Conference is because we don't have somebody making them. Shipping to the island is extremely expensive. We definitely, as we start looking at getting chips, we'll definitely be looking into make sure that they're readily available supply source. Did you have something, Hans?
If I could just add, we had some boiler experts come and talk to the school board a couple years ago about wood boilers. And one of the things that they brought to us was that they make boilers now that can burn all sorts of different fuel. They could burn dry chips or wet chips. And I was a little frustrated. The school district had already bought the boiler that they have now. It needs dry chips. But the city moving forward, knowing we have plenty of chips, we don't have plenty of dry chips, but maybe you could spec out a boiler that could handle wet chips. Yeah. And then you could get it from anywhere with little work, little nothing. So that was
yeah, absolutely. The mayor that I was talking to, they had the same thing, and honestly, ours was supposed to do the same thing. It just never worked that way. It's supposed to keep them up to a certain, level. So and it just didn't do it. So it was moisture level. We knew if it was too dry, knew if it was too wet. But they do have the technology out there. And it was actually, they said they had a really great success from a company. They were actually Mennonites, and they said these guys, are the boiler guys, and he told me to reach out to them. And at this point in time, I thought we had the money funding and we knew what we were getting, but now that we're starting from scratch again, and going to our, definitely be reaching out.
I would just like to encourage us to include Southeast Conference in our future kind of considerations and conversations.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, we do a lot of back and forth with them, and Niles and them are going to definitely hear about us and our boiler situation. I mean, for Prince of Wales Island, part of the biggest honk is around not being able to supply wood chips that were the, first people to have a boiler. This is a pretty big slap in the face. So, yeah. But we know how the budget is, and it's still a mess, and so until we get a new governor, yeah. Any more discussion on the biomass boiler? All right, roll call vote, please.
Shawnee?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Josh?
Yes.
Janice?
Yeah.
Millie?
Yes.
Chanel?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Before council comments, I just have one question. When we were on the phone with the person from the tour company, there was discussion that we were going to reach out and see if we were, that we could get the dock fees and we can't.
Jennifer sent me some information shortly after that meeting. The bottom line is that those fees that are collected are required to be used to benefit the ships, not the passengers. And so by extension, we're not eligible to use those monies to improve passenger experiences. Those are funds that would have to be used for the berth construction and items that benefit the ships. There are communities in Alaska that also charge head tax that then use some of those fees for more passenger-related expenses. But the pot of money that the state collects that she thought we might be eligible for, she found out is really limited to projects that benefit the ships themselves, not the passengers.
I might reach out to Southeast Conference. I know they were like, Adam, you guys get ships coming in, you guys can potentially be in this, where you can get some revenue.
I think not being the port.
Yeah, no, not being the port town, yes, definitely, but, we're definitely in a different situation than anybody else in Southeast Alaska has cruise ships. Because,
like always.
there's no invisible line drawn, but the communities are, are adjacent to each other.
I think you hit it right on the button there. There's no invisible line. The barrier, city limits to Quogue starts and ends at Search.
Right.
The municipality could create a port authority, extend the line out,
Yeah.
and therefore, it's your port authority.
Yeah. So council comments.
I have a couple. First, it was about 2 weeks ago when one of the cruise ships were in, Nora and I made it a point to walk out the trail. When I knew there was people out there, we met one group coming back. They were strung out, everybody, not hi, how you doing, just polite. We walked out to the end, we come back and then a group that was going out, same thing. I mean, they were, 10, 12 people, whatever it was, they were strung out. They were not, inconveniencing us at all. So that was my perspective of that. And then, being out at the ballpark, I see the gate is down out there. I don't know if this has been mentioned at a council meeting before, very recently, but I really appreciate that Sean C. took the gate down and we have access out there.
Same.
Acknowledge that.
Yeah, when I had a meeting with them last week, I extended that and was very thankful and let them know if there's anything we can do
That's good public accommodation.
That door is wide open.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a question in regards to the tourism. Is the city of Craig responsible for the porta potties or is it the cruise ship? Because one of the biggest complaints I've heard around town, there aren't enough of them. People have to walk quite a ways.
Which porta potties? I'm not familiar with any that have been.
Well, I thought there was gonna be porta potties out
I don't believe so.
out at the cemetery? Out the trail.
No, they're basically said that they could use the bathrooms down there that are now basically flushing toilets, and that's what we talked about in that one council meeting that maybe you weren't here for.
No, I was here.
Okay.
But if they're clear at the end, and some of those people are like my age,
Yeah.
they're not gonna make it to the ball field, is my point.
To the best of my knowledge, there are no porta potties out on the trail.
You wouldn't be able to get a service truck out there to pump those porta potties. That service truck that they use to pump the porta potties is like
Okay.
yeah.
You'd have to stay on a trailer.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to have to carry the full porta potty.
We're gonna have to tell them to wait out to here.
There was some discussion with Quogue Island Ventures that if they go through with the Jeep tour down on the cannery property, that they were going to pay to put a couple of porta potties in the parking lot down at the bottom of the hill at their cost. But I haven't seen any, I was told, but that they may or may not run that tour very much. I haven't seen any groups of Jeeps down there, so I don't know that they run any of those groups. But the discussion was if they were doing that regularly, they were talking about putting porta potties down there at their expense. But no porta potties out at the Cemetery Island as part of their tours.
They do have them located all over Quogue.
Okay, does the city or the Chamber of Commerce have like a walking guide or a walking map, whatever you wanna call it?
Correction created a nice walking map last year, and at the time, the cruise ship said they did not want it. It is dated for last year, but they have been getting them passed out because I know there was a few of them that have been left in a few of the businesses after they went walking, and So at some point in time, they're gathering them from somewhere. I'm not sure if it's from local businesses. But yeah, we got a bunch of them out there as you walk out the door of walking maps of the community, of the businesses.
And there were a handful of comments and questions about the walking map last year. Ivy's been working on an update to clean that up. But yeah, the cruise line, at least unless they've changed their position, doesn't want to hand out any walking maps that don't come from them.
Yeah, they sell excursions and we're giving it for free.
That was their issue last year, so they wouldn't let people pass them out at the Artist. Any of the cruise ship venues, they were not letting people pass out walking maps of Craig. Now, doesn't mean we can't find some places and put some
Right.
out for people.
I'll ask a guess.
Yeah, right.
I think that what I'd like to see is just maybe businesses, because sometimes they'll come in and they'll wanna know how to get to Log Cabin or Thompson House. Just a little one, maybe a business map one, because they ask about where's Dockside, where's the Hill Bar.
That's kind of what I was trying to figure out the balance of and include a map that's got.
Or any of the businesses that have city sales tax incorporated with them, they're already getting dropped off at the CTA. That's the only one that doesn't collect sales tax, but any of them that collect sales tax for the city of Craig, I'd like to see them on the walking map for a business, just so they know, even if it's, because there was like JT Brown's last year was one of the examples that was left off, and it's a store that's been here for 100 years, and so that got added to the map. But there's like, they're getting dropped off at the Hill Bar for the charcuterie board. And there's quite a few of them coming out that's not quite impressed with the Hill Bar and are like, where can I go? And there was somebody who was at Dockside, and they're like, we got a beautiful boardwalk right there that takes you down to the cannery. And they're like, really? And so it was like, yeah. So they made their way down, down to Cannery Point. But yeah, we tried to get something together real quick last year and out to them. And when they weren't too acceptable of receiving it, it has been getting passed out, because I guess my point is they said, oh, and then they left their walking map of the city of Craig's there at their table when they left. And I was like, oh my goodness, they got the walking map somehow. And so it is starting, and these things will be word of mouth and stuff we'll start creating. So if we can, it would also help, we pass them out to our businesses that they're going into, that, hey, here's a walking map of Craig, but.
We'll continue to work on updating the map and getting more out.
Okay, and then I brought up the signage before, and I've been giving this a little bit more thought because our city crew really has their hands full. I'm thinking that if we ask the high school, their shop class, to make signs, where the library is, where certain things are, so people know, because they're walking just right, the main part of town, not knowing we have a library. Don't know if they need a library or not, but it would be nice.
What about a sign that says like City of Craig walking map and a QR code? I would be much more apt to get my phone and get the
Talk about how
QR.
those people don't have AT&T and that they don't have service over here. But then you could tell them to come to the library and do the walking.
It's not a bad idea to include, though, for the people that can access it.
Yeah.
I would like to see us by next year have some places where we have some map kiosks or something, where once we figure out what the flow of these passengers are, I think passing them out to the businesses to hand out is a great move as well. And hopefully we'll enter into some more favorable discussions with the cruise lines about either them producing a good walking map or not objecting to using ours.
I think we just post it all over town in every business window. And even ask the businesses if they, JT Brown's, they have that little thing right in front of the cash register. Can you put some there? We have some at the library, wherever.
We have a new plotter. We can print big ones out and put them in the business windows now too.
There you go.
We'll put Ivy to work with a brand new machine.
JT Brown's would be perfect.
Yeah.
And bringing up signage, we should probably have Hans and the harbor committee think about some signage down on that dock that would, eliminate us from anything, maybe informational as well with the guidelines that they come up with down the road. So they're posted, you know,
You talking about use of the seaplane float?
yeah, down the seaplane side.
Yeah, we can work on that.
I know, I was gonna say this as soon as Oliver left. So. The one thing that I've been thinking for quite some time, and it's very awkward for the way I believe the city should run, is all the buildings in your department, you manage them yourself. And what we've got is, we've got great facility guys who don't work on the harbor buildings. They don't work on anything. So the infrastructure on the building down at the web loft to the actual harbor building to like Kaylee's Lee's building out there, that's all harbor. If we could somehow fix the mapping of the departments and make sure that the guys who know how to work on buildings are working on all the buildings and they're their buildings, it would probably make a lot more sense than the guys who are working with water issues and boat haul outs, not having to maintain buildings. That was my idea. Hopefully we can work on something like that.
Yeah, and I agree with like having the guys who work on what they do, but a lot of our guys are doing that as well as other duties as applies. Not only they're the carpenter, they're the boiler guy and they're the furnace guy. And so that's where I was kind of coming with when we do these budgets and we know that we have a building that's dilapidated, at some point in time, we're gonna have to pull the penny out of our bank account and get it up to something that is feasible for people to lease and rent from us and so on and so forth. So as we keep looking at, you know, open up more land for housing and businesses and move businesses up into the youth center and so on and so forth, hopefully that starts opening up more generating more funds for tax revenue as well as leases, so.
Oh, I did have a question. Did the buildings get assessed, like the old youth center building?
The old center was assessed a couple weeks ago. I'm still waiting on the value from Josh.
The appraiser's done the field work, but we haven't received an appraisal yet.
Oh, okay.
And then I guess just to add, real quick, I've been dealing with Tongass or Mental Health Trust on land purchasing. And basically what they do is they literally pay for the appraisal. The appraisal is not like it's open for the public. Then whatever the appraisal value of their land is, they charge 150% of the appraisal value for knowing that this land is actually going to increase in value. And then somebody literally puts in, hey, I want to purchase, the person who come to them who wanted to purchase, I want to purchase your $100,000 piece of property for the $150,000 that you proposed to me. And then it also opens up somebody else to come in and say, hey, I'll give you $175,000. I'm not saying that we go for that full stint, but we do every time that we've ever got an appraisal come up, we basically sold it for the appraisal value. I mean, looking at like a 20% increase this last year, and knowing that we still have property that's still in lingo of being purchased, I take that in consideration when we look at the appraisal price that was approved. And, you know, when we come to make a decision on the final negotiations of the final sale, potentially being like, well, let's add 20% to that appraisal price because this last year for commercial property was appraised like 15%. So it wouldn't be to the council to be like, well, your appraisal was $100,000 that piece of property, it increased 15% last year. So now that we're doing the final agreement, this piece of property will sell you for, you know, $115,000, if that makes sense. It's just, it blew me away when I was like, wow, you guys, but it was getting the most for their land development. I just wanted to share that with the council before we adjourned.
And those options are open to the council. So the Title 16 sets the minimum value at the market value appraisal.
Yep.
But the council always has
Absolutely.
the option to increase it. And from a policy perspective, the Title 16 changes will be on the agenda for second reading next meeting. That would be a good time if the council wants to, instead of charging assessed or appraised value, the council can certainly change the policy in the municipal code to 120% of appraised value or 150% of appraised value to set a new baseline.
I know there's different, you know, different things come up, but I mean, if we did keep it at the, you know, appraised value, or not below. I just take into consideration knowing that if I was, that it's going up every year, that 5 years, but yeah.
Well, just a question, have we heard anything back, Brian or Ivy, from, the state on our Maple Bay comments? I talked to Clinton a week or so ago, and he said that they did get a response, so I was curious as to, if we have heard anything, or maybe why not, but I continue to be concerned about that.
We haven't, but it's not unusual. I don't know that I've ever seen a response from most agencies when you submit comments, other than if it's electronic, they tell you electronically that your comments have been submitted. I don't think I've ever seen a reply.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you guys.
The president of Sea Alaska said they actually write letters down there.
Yeah.
Proposing to, but they don't get a response from the state.